Awesome. Just adding Megan. Hiya.
Hi. Good, it's all working. That's good.
Yes. Hi everyone. Hey Jeff. So today myself and Megan, we're both current students at Kent. We'll be talking about fun things to do with your housemates whilst inside, which I think is, I don't know about you, Megan, but I'm going through all the ideas right now to try and keep ourselves
Yeah.
occupied.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's especially in lockdown, it's been different to live with housemates compared to my other situations, but there are definitely fixes that can help pass the time, get along better. There's all sorts of things to do.
I agree. Although it's quite difficult if you're not sure where to start with at the beginning. But once you've sort of got a few ideas, you really start to get thinking and you try and adapt and improvise, I find anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm. So we're just going to talk through a couple of things that we found to be helpful, which might help some of you guys who are either on campus, off campus, just started at Kent or been at Kent already, just to help you guys get some ideas on sort of maybe things just outside the box you might not have thought about to get up to. I don't know, we want to start with sort of what our favourites are.
Okay, I'll say if you want me to start, I can start. I've
Yeah, go for it.
lived in lots of different housing situations. Yeah, I've lived in lots of different housing situations at Kent. I did my undergrad here, now I'm doing my PhD. Um, And one of our favourite things to do, especially when I was in my undergrad, was to do kind of potluck dinners for special occasions. So we Chinese New Year, we celebrate Thanksgiving, and it was nice because it gave us all a sense of community. So we'd all put a dish in. Cooking wasn't my strong point in undergrad, so I would volunteer with ingredients and I would do all the washing up, which worked quite well for me. But it allows you to kind of, it's nice to have almost an event night with housemates where you can sit down, talk in a way where your life might be too busy otherwise. In my current house, I live off campus now with one housemate. We make sure Sunday nights we sort of have a dinner together and talk and actually spend time as friends and not just as housemates, which is really nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I lived in my first year, I lived in Beckett Court, and we didn't have a kitchen, unfortunately, but we still had a microwave. And I think we tried making microwavable cakes. Like you put all the ingredients in your
Oh yeah.
cup, and then you sort of chuck it in, and then you get a cake at the end, which is pretty cool considering we didn't have to clean up as well. So that was always a bonus.
Yeah.
And I think my second year I lived in a house with five others, so a house of six. And we tried to do potluck dinners, but everyone was studying something different, so we weren't always in at the same time, so it was a bit tricky. So I
Yeah.
definitely wish I did more of those, because the themed ones sound really good idea as well.
It was nice because we got to know, especially like Chinese New Year, I had a
Mm.
Chinese house. So it was a meaningful event for them as well that we could all share in. That was one of the nicest parts of that. Um, it's it's fun. That's the best way I can put it.
Mm.
Food will always make people kind of, food always links people together in my experience. I was lucky that when I was in my first year, I lived in Parkwood in the
Mm.
houses.
Oh,
I lived
nice.
in, yes, I lived in Grimshill Court, number 13, if
Mm.
anyone knows now. And I really enjoyed the kind of sense of community and just having the housing blocks as well. I understand
Yeah.
that at the moment it's probably not feasible, but when we first moved in, we kind of had an event where we all moved our kitchen tables into the centre and got
Mm.
to know the people in the court. At the moment, that's obviously not something that you can do. But
Mm.
one of the fun things that we did that night was kind of not necessarily play knock and run on other people's houses, but knock on the doors and say, "Hello, we live at this house, just so you know
Yeah.
we're here,"
Mm.
which was nice. It was nice to, so we weren't just like one little house of six people. It was nice to get
Mm.
to know everyone around.
And you never know, there might be someone next door who is studying your course and you end up sort of hanging out with them loads anyway, and you can walk to lectures together.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice
Mm.
to, although I'd also say when you live with housemates, you don't have to limit yourself to the people that you live with. You can also join society, do things like that, where you can meet friends with common interests. But it's also nice to know people that don't have the same interests, maybe, so you get to learn more about other cultures, other ways of life, or even just a completely different taste in films. Something
Definitely.
I learned from first year housemates, which was good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's definitely some good ideas for maybe people who've moved in a little late as well, if they're a bit worried about meeting new people, knock on doors, or if you're not comfortable knocking on doors, you can slip a note in. And there's also all these group chats as well, so you can always join one and introduce yourself if you're a bit nervous. And everyone's lovely. Everyone's in the same shoes anyway, so I wouldn't be too worried what other people might think, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to meet others, so go for it.
Yeah, I was like, there's always lots of there's like the Facebook group specifically for postgrads. There are Facebook groups specifically in certain courts at the university, or even what I've done in previous houses is slide note under my door with my WhatsApp details. You can make a WhatsApp group for your flat. So even if it's things like, I've run out of milk, can I borrow some milk? Or if it's, I'm free this evening, do you want to sit in the kitchen and watch something terrible on TV, which is normally my request to people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good ideas, definitely. My other favorite as well, if you've got a couple of other people, just to get to know them. If you're not too keen with cooking, you can always do like a quiz night. That's always quite a fun one, because everyone knows something different.
Yeah, especially since the pandemic started, Zoom quizzes have skyrocketed. This is slightly different because it was with my family, but we were doing a weekly quiz with my family to sort of keep us in contact, and we'd do themed weeks. So I did a Christmas themed quiz in the middle of June that my dad took a Christmas tree out of the loft for and decorated our dining room, which was really nice. Potentially with the quizzes, if you're in a particular flat in a block, or if you're in a particular house, maybe put a note through saying, here's the link to the Zoom, we're going to do a Zoom quiz, let's get to know our block, let's get to know people in this building. So that could be really nice.
Definitely. I did one recently, and it was just loads of random questions, because there was one that was pre-made online as well, and you could tweak a little bit. I think there was one specifically around certain topics, like a sciencey one, and it was like a bit of a throwback, because it was like, oh my god, GCSE biology, photosynthesis, what's the answer to this question? So it was quite fun as well, trying to rack your brains, and fun to know what other people think up as questions too. At the end when you're marking it, you're like, oh no, like I'm so close, or oh, you scored 10 out of 10 and you're a secret pub quiz genius.
Oh, I think my video is cutting out.
Sorry, you're right. You're
back. No problem. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's good, especially if you've got people in your flat studying different things. We've all got our strengths. So normally, because I do English literature, people assume that I know every book that's ever been written, which is more often than not proved not to be the case. But I do reasonably well in kind of sport questions, which I didn't expect of myself. So yeah, everyone's got slightly different strengths. Everyone's got things that are slightly better. And yeah, sometimes you just have a random bit of information that pops into your brain that no one is expecting for no apparent reason, which is good.
And sometimes you don't even know how you know it, but you know it, and you've just got your team 10 points.
Exactly. Like there was once a tiebreaker question, and it was, what was the middle name of Captain Scott who travelled to the Antarctic? And I knew it was Falcon. I don't know how I knew, but I knew, and it won our team the quiz. Brilliant. And to this day, I couldn't tell you how that piece of information slipped into my head, but we won the quiz from it, so I'm not going to complain.
Awesome. So that's another good way, and I guess they're always doing weekly, I think, pub quizzes over at Woody. So anyone at Parkwood or anyone on campus or even off campus, I think you do need to sign up ahead of time due to restrictions now on capacity. But take a look at that, because that's also quite a fun thing if you are into quizzes, and if you are interested in going out, that's an option to look at. And then once you've refined your skills and selected your housemates, which are experts in a certain area. No, I'm kidding. But you can get a little team together, and it might be a good fun evening out, getting some food as well. Other things I quite like, we are into games a lot, sort of board games. I don't know if that's something you've experienced before with your housemates, but I don't live with many other people, so it's quite hard just to play a board game with 2 people. So we usually host it online over Zoom, and we played a couple of things. One that is like really good and doesn't require any, you know, the games when you're like, oh, you have to explain all the rules, and then before you know it, it's been an hour and everyone's a bit fed up. But one of the really easy ones we found is really fun is Scribbler or Scribble, I think it is. And it's like a Pictionary one, and literally no rules. It's just draw it, and my drawings are really bad, but it makes it even funnier because everyone has to guess what the word is, and you're all competing against who can get it quicker, and then you get more points from that. And that's something that's really good because, like I said, it doesn't require asking or needing lots of explanation. It's quite straightforward, and it's also quite funny as well without needing to prepare much.
There's like an online game channel, I think it's called Jackbox Games, that one of our friends has a subscription to. I think you have to sort of, it's almost like you pay a streaming subscription, but we've shared that over Zoom, and you can use your phone to sort of participate with your answers. It's very good for people in different houses to sort of play along with the same games. We've played that on people's birthdays since the start of lockdown.
Nice.
And yeah, it's really fun to sort of play a game that you wouldn't necessarily play in your house. One of the games is where it's almost kind of like the Cards Against Humanity kind of fill in the gaps. You don't know who's answered with certain answers, and you have to vote collectively as who put the best answer to that situation. It's quite nice. It can be funny, it can be rude, it can just be hilarious. If you're in a group of people that you know, you can make in jokes, but if you're in a group of people that you don't necessarily know, it can be a good way of showing your sense of humour to other people and sort of making those in jokes that you can bond over. And yeah, we found that really good. Yeah, it's been very nice. Sometimes, because there's like an array of games, there's a selection where you can only play with 3 or 4 people. There's some you can play with up to 8, and there's also an option where you can sort of be an audience member, so you just watch and join in with the votes to decide who wins if you've got too many players to play on their own, if that makes sense. Or potentially you can play collectively. So we've played it before where me and my housemate were one team, and each house had a team rather than doing it individually. It's good to get more people.
House versus house.
It's a good competition.
What website was that again? That sounds really good.
I believe it's called Jackbox Games. I'll just double check it.
Cool. I might give that a go myself.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Some of the games I had to have kind of explained to me more than once. But you can buy expansion packs. Yeah, it's called it's on jackbox.tv is where you sort of type in the code. I'm not quite sure where you log in and subscribe. But yeah, all you have to do is type in a room code, so you make sure you're in the same room with your friends who are playing the same game. And yeah, it's brilliant. Get along. Another thing that I've really enjoyed doing with different types of housemates is like the kind of movie nights. I know you've put it on your blog, and you can, if for example, if one person's got Amazon Prime on the free student trial, or another person's got Netflix, someone else has got Disney Plus, it's good where you can have a night in your kitchen. Someone sets up their laptop. If you've only got a microwave popcorn is also really good for that kind of night. Just make sure you clean the microwave afterwards, is what I'll say.
Do not leave it in for too long.
No, I've learned the hard way that if a bag of popcorn explodes, it's quite difficult to clean off a microwave.
No, definitely. Netflix is and all the streaming ones, they're really good, and there's so many to choose from. There's always going to be something that everyone wants to watch, even if it's like a classic, or even you can just take turns. If one person's not that keen on a certain genre, then the next week you can choose something they're more keen on. But there's just so much choice. It's just so easy. You stick it on and then you just choose something and share it, really, which is quite nice because you can get to know each other's interests and watch something different maybe that you're not normally used to watching.
Yeah, I've loved doing things like that on Netflix Party as well. I know that's an add-on that you can put on. I think it's on Chrome is an add-on. That it's quite nice because there's also a chat bar down the side. So if you're self-isolating in your room on your own, or if your flatmates are somewhere else, it's good so you can kind of do a running commentary on what you're watching. I know the KGSA did one earlier in the year, kind of last year now, that was Hotel Transylvania. I'd never seen it before. It's a kids movie. I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of messaging all of them going, I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then I told my godchildren to watch it, so that was quite fun.
Nice.
That they were getting recommendations from me about what they should watch as they're 6 and 4.
Awesome. Yeah, I've not tried Disney Plus yet, just because I haven't paid for it. I've only paid for Netflix, and I've got the 6 months free on the Prime. So I need to find a friend who's got Disney Plus, and we can have a Disney night.
That's one of the perks of having small godchildren. My friends have very generously shared their passwords, so
okay. Cool. Other things as well that I think was suggested to me, things to do, is, especially if you can't go out and you still want to keep fit physically, you can do like a home workout. There were quite a few people sort of streaming it during lockdown, especially. Those who don't have a TV, there's loads of stuff on YouTube as well, and quick videos you can follow. And you don't even need a lot of fancy equipment. You just can use household items, like baked beans. It sounds really silly, but if you think about it, the weight of it is, if you get the weight right, then at the end of the day, it's kind of same.
And things like bottles of water as well. Like I've got a little bottle of water that I have used as a kind of hand weight, because it's good, because it definitely fits in your hand.
Yeah.
Just make sure you put the top on properly is a thing that I learned. Okay. But it's good, just even if you can't get out of the house, it's sometimes good. For example, my previous housemates and I did the Joe Wicks ones when he was doing PE every morning. We both get in the lounge. There's that kind of idea that we can motivate each other as well as trying to motivate ourselves. We did also eat cake after it quite a lot, which probably was counterintuitive, but yeah, bonding. It was bonding with my housemates.
Cake is always good.
Yeah, and there's also programs like there's a lot of yoga programs on there. One thing I did miss when the gym was closed, was going to the kind of group Zumba classes and those kind of body pump style classes, the ones with bar weights. But like you say, you can do replacement weights, and luckily I don't live in an upstairs apartment, so me running on the spot, jumping up and down and dancing hasn't made, fingers crossed, a lot of difference. The only problem is the window right onto the main road that you can almost see behind me, where I probably look crazy to some of the people on the street, but I'm exercising, I'm enjoying it. So
as long as you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is, you don't always need bits, because you can just do like sit-ups and press-ups and things. Obviously, if you've got a yoga mat or a mat of some sort, it kind of helps, because you might not have carpet. Hard wood floor might not be too comfortable to lie in. But I think you can really improvise, like put like a duvet or something down on the ground, just to make you feel a bit comfier.
As long as you're considerate to the people you live with. So for example, if you're in one of the blocks of flats on campus, maybe don't exercise in the middle of the night, I'd say is probably a good idea, as long as it's kept kind of reasonable hours. And I think that's a really good idea, to still keep moving, still get some endorphins going, even if you can't necessarily get out too much. But say I've been one of those cliches that started doing couch to 5K during lockdown. There are some really beautiful places where you can run on campus. Around Parkwood, where the sports fields are, is lovely. Of course, I always run down Elliot Hill rather than up it, because that's far better for me. But there are lots of places around campus where we can get some exercise outside. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a structured class, but you can also get used to campus, get used to where certain buildings are. If you know you have a class in person at some point in a building, maybe schedule a walk around there.
Absolutely. And I think definitely Kent Sport, they're doing some social runs, so that's something you can always get involved with. I didn't list how long the run was, but I mean, if you don't fancy going any further, you can just head back. There's no sort of, you have to continue, and it's quite good, because then that also definitely takes you around, and because you're in a group, you won't get lost. And it'd be quite good that you can familiarise yourself. Maybe you're thinking, oh no, I've got a class over at Sibson, I'm not too sure where that is. It really helps you put everything into perspective, sort of where all the buildings are in relation to each other. Which is always helpful if you're coming back. Maybe you spent the day in London, you just got off the bus and it's a bit darker and campus looks a bit different. you can always think, oh, yep, the library's there. I know where to turn and where to
Yeah.
go. Even though there are loads of helpful maps on campus, so you should be fine. But it's just one of those things to familiarize yourself and help you feel more at home, I guess, so you know where everything is.
Especially around Parkwood. Like when I lived in Parkwood, like you say, everything in the dark looks slightly different. So during the day, I made sure I walked around so I knew vaguely where most of the courts were in relation to mine. So if I took a wrong turning at night, or if I wasn't quite sure where I was, I could go, oh, I'm near Farthing. That's around the corner. I kind of know where that is. It's good to get your bearing. And yeah, it's also, if once you make friends that live in other apartment buildings, it also helps so you can find where their flat is. And
that was quite easy. I lived in Beckett Court. It was literally find the venue, follow it around. It's maybe a bit too not of a challenge for me, but I didn't get a chance to properly explore Parkwood until later in the year because I guess I didn't need to. But I feel like it would have been good. There's some really pretty walks around there as well, and wildlife as well. I think it's really peaceful.
Especially I realized when it snowed, that was when I did most of my walks around campus, just to sort of see how beautiful it was with snow on the ground and sort of walking around. I think our flats were competitively making snowmen, because whenever one of us made a snowman, then the one next door would be slightly bigger, and that was quite a fun experience that I remember. I also remember that one of my housemates took the snowman inside that night because he was scared it would get cold. That wasn't the best decision ever made. And we up in the morning to just some sticks on the floor in a flood, but the idea was quite nice in principle. But it was good to see all the different flats where flatmates have got together and built a snowman collectively and things like that.
Absolutely. Oh, poor snowman. No, campus is definitely really pretty across like all the seasons. It always looks a little bit different. Because right now I think all the leaves are it's all becoming really autumny. All the leaves are falling off. It's really pretty. It's all different times of year, and snowing as well. Elliott footpath is completely like the whole field is white. It's beautiful, and then snowman, snow fights, sleds, I think was one year. Like I haven't seen that in a while. But yeah, really, really pretty, and something that I don't think I would see it anywhere else, of everyone getting together and just enjoying the outdoors. It'll be a bit different this year, obviously. And who knows if it will snow or not, but we shall see.
Fingers crossed. I know some of the best views I've seen of Canterbury have been when it's snowed, because it's not just campus, it's like the cathedral where you can see it sort of tipped with snow, and see all the landmarks like the Marlow Theatre and things with snow on. Canterbury's a beautiful city at the best of times, but especially on a nice crisp winter evening or a nice crisp autumn evening, looking down it sounds stupid. It's one of my favourite places in the world to just stand and appreciate it. Especially, I normally stand just outside the Senate building and just look. That was the moment when I was touring Canterbury University, 12 years ago now, when I first came here. That was the moment where I stood on campus and I looked around and I went, I could be really happy. That's one of my favourite places, the whole of Canterbury. And like, I've got a flu jab next week, and I'm really excited to go up to campus to the medical centre, because I haven't seen a lot of campus, obviously, now I'm living off campus. So it's going to be really nice to sort of have a nice walk around campus, see what's changed, and see the sights. It sounds
the medical building, new medical school, that's up now. I was up there a couple of weeks ago and it's really pretty, so I definitely recommend having a wander. And I guess if you're rushing, like always rushing to a seminar or a lecture or whatever, have a moment and just sort of stop and enjoy sort of what's around you, because in a couple of weeks' time campus will look completely different again, new season. So definitely take a minute and just, even if you're in a hurry, or maybe choose a day where you give yourself an extra 5 minutes just to look around and really take it all in, because it's just something I feel like I wish I did more of, just because you never realize how quick things change, and then it's like, oh no, I missed the bluebells, for instance, or the daffodils. They're always my favorite.
I do like when the daffodils come out and you see more of the rabbits around campus as well, and it looks like a kind of very twee springtime that you'd expect on a postcard or something, but it's to enjoy. Another bit I like about the area around campus, there are so many places where you can walk from there. So you could, for example, walk down the hill towards Tyler Hill, the small village. There's a really place there called the Tyler Kiln, which is a pub and a restaurant, and it's a nice walk from campus. It's probably about half an hour, but it just gets you to a part. I don't know if most people are like me and they get the bus to town and the bus back. It's nice to explore slightly outside Canterbury in other directions. I know the Crab and Winkle Walk is a long walk to Whitstable. There are paths that go towards Wincheap, along the river. There are so many different paths that you can walk around Canterbury and around this area that are stunning, and you don't necessarily get public transport if you want to stay socially distanced from other people. It's to be able to get outside in the fresh air and sort of enjoy it as it is.
Yeah, it really makes a difference. And I guess if you are stuck inside, these are some of the things that you can do to plan ahead when you do decide to go out as a group. There's loads of ideas on sort of the Visit Kent websites of local places you can visit, little towns outside, how to get there. If you like planning, I love planning. That's something that you can do if you have a bit of spare time, just to bond with your housemates, maybe see what they want to visit. Maybe they want to go to a particular museum, or they want to find out about a particular area, or they had a friend who's been to Kent before and they've recommended a couple of places to them. You can spend a day planning sort of trips, how to get there, and making sure you're getting back as well. Make sure you plan both journeys, especially now too. Making sure that even if you don't pick the last bus, because if you can't get on the last bus due to capacity, make sure you have a backup plan, because you can't guarantee that you will get on that bus. If it is full, then bad times if you can't get back, and you don't want to get a cab because that would be a bit more expensive as well, or maybe if it's a train or a coach or whatever. But yeah, something else to keep in mind that you can do a bit of planning in advance.
There are a lot of museums and things that are doing like tours. I work for Bridge Hospital, which is a museum in Canterbury. While they're closed to the public at the moment because obviously the COVID restrictions, they do on their website like a virtual 3D tour, so you can see the inside of the buildings, and if you like what you see, you could go when they finally reopen. There are lots of different museums that are also doing similar things. I had a quick look earlier, and the Beanie is having some exhibitions reopening. I think the Roman Museum was closed, but also the Marlow are starting to have events, things to plan in the long term as well as the short term. Quite nice.
And definitely the virtual tools, they're quite a good idea. If you are looking to stay in or whatever, you can just click through and explore together as a house, because you wouldn't have seen it otherwise. So it's something new for everyone. I think the Cathedral are maybe doing something similar, but they definitely have a really good fact sheet, because I was looking at it the other day, and it tells you all the history and things of all the different bits, and there's photos that go with it. So it's something that you can have a look at in your spare time, just to find out more about Canterbury and the area that you're in.
Yeah, there are a lot of English heritage sites as well around, and that do have very good online booking processes, so they are making sure their sites are socially distanced. Often they're one way. There's kind of, because you have to book ahead, there's only a certain number of people there at certain times. There are a lot of places that are becoming very aware of how to respond to the current COVID-19 crisis, and they're doing very well at making sure everyone has the best experience they can, even though we don't quite know what's going on with the world at the moment. But it's nice that they have in place areas of beauty around here, especially like St Augustine's Abbey is just at Canterbury, and they've got a system where you book in advance, you go at a certain time. It's really nicely done, and you can experience some of the highlights of Canterbury and not have to worry about your safety while you're doing it, which is good.
Absolutely. And another thing that's just come to mind of things you can do while staying in, like you mentioned with the potlucks and how they're themed, decorating your house was quite a fun one that we did, especially Christmas. We definitely did it during then, and I think we had a mini like Easter egg hunt, bit late for that, but something maybe for next year, but hiding them around the house and making sure you remember how many you hid so you don't find one a couple of months later. But that was really good fun, and getting everyone searching. Obviously you'll have one person who doesn't play, who plants them and hides them everywhere, but it's always good fun, and chocolate and food, always good, and you'll definitely be in as well. So if it is like rainy or whatever outside, or if you're not going outside, then that's something you can do. with Christmas coming up, let's say Halloween first. Halloween,
Yeah.
obviously, costumes and things and decorating. If you live off campus, you might get trick-or-treaters, you might not. I did a few years, oh, I did last year actually. And it was quite sweet. The little kids who lived near me was knocking on my door, and we were just had a bowl of sweets and stuff. I don't know how it would work this year with social distancing.
Yeah.
We might leave it outside, but it was really sweet to see them all dressed up. And we didn't dress up. We feel like we should have, but a few years ago we did do a little costume party. Just for fun with the house we lived in, and got to rate each other's costumes. I think the rule was that you had to make it yourself, so that made it a bit more interesting. So you didn't just go to the shop and buy one. But yeah,
I know in
Halloween
previous
coming up.
years, yeah. Sorry, I was like, I know in previous years the KGSA has run events with window decorating on campus. So that was in Wolf, and they sort of gave a prize for whoever decorated their kitchen window that faced all into the centre, sort of who decorated them with the festive decorations, which was a really nice idea.
Yeah.
And it meant that a lot of Wolf kind of looked festive, even though some people weren't necessarily on campus for Christmas.
Yeah.
For the people that were, it was nice to sort of see garlands, and a lot of them were handmade, the kind of snowflake patterns out of paper.
We were rating them, and the one who won was the flat who had Santa coming out of their window. Like coming out of their window, like half of the Santa was hanging out, and they had painted it, though it was like a cardboard thing, but they had done it so it looked like Santa was crawling into their kitchen window, and we were like, yep, that is the winner. So that was really good fun. They got a little hamper of little treats. Don't know if that's going to happen this year, but it's fun ideas, maybe without the prize at the end if you're just doing it within your house, but definitely makes you feel a bit more Christmassy, especially if you're stuck in.
I remember walking past one of the blocks in Keynes, and someone had put ho 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 as they could read it from inside, but from outside it read oh oh oh. So I was walking back to the medical centre one day, I know exactly what they've done, but from this angle it looks quite concerning, but it was really fun. Clearly the people in the house were embracing that, because as I walked past they saw me laughing, and then sort of I think they were laughing at me laughing, which was quite nice for them as a group. But yeah, it was a nice touch for quite an uneventful trip otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, decorating is definitely something you can all do together as well, because you can also make your own as well as obviously buying bits, because you can cut out from like a piece of paper, you can make the snowflakes. I think you fold it in a particular way and then you cut chunks out and you open it up and it's a big beautiful snowflake, and then everyone will cut it differently. So again, something fun to do to decorate, relatively cheap as well. All you need is a bit of paper.
Yeah, and even you don't necessarily have to decorate for an event. There are I'm going to tell you about the house I'm in at the moment. We took a trip a while ago to Cornwall, so we are in the process of making what we're calling the Cornwall. So sort of pictures from our trip, memories of together, and like my family went as well. And it's nice to have those sort of memories together, that pictures of places where we've been. So even though at the moment we can't really travel, it's nice to see beautiful sites that we've seen in previous times. We've also got on our fridge postcards that other housemates have sent us in the past, which is nice. It's nice to see places from all over the world at the moment, even though we see Canterbury every day. It's nice to have the postcards from Gettysburg. One of the postcards we've got on the thing. I've got one from Edinburgh, and it's nice just to have those memories somewhere you can see them and revisit it if you can't necessarily get out too much.
Definitely. That sounds like a really good idea. I like that. The Cornwall.
Yeah, we went to a castle and bought some like little daggers, so we're going to have a kind of crossed wooden dagger as well to make it really dramatic. Nice. It's a nice touch to kind of, although student housing can be relatively similar, it is nice to make your house particularly your own. It's nice to put a personal touch to sometimes quite impersonal places. For example, I'm in a rented house and you can see my big Doctor Who poster behind my head.
I had the same one in first year. I love it.
But yeah, I think the plant sale's on campus today as well, so potentially getting plants for your flat that you can all keep alive might be a good idea. Although if everyone's watering the plant at the same time, it might not last too long.
Yeah, make sure you water the There's
I
also,
remember,
I guess, to keep in mind how you can decorate your place. Make sure you do stick to the rules. So, I know
oh,
candles are a big no. Um, any additional electrical appliances. I think there are some rules on them, but make sure you check if you are, especially if you're living on campus. There's a little handbook you get. Make sure you are following the rules. But things like posters, I'm sure are fine, and sort of
yeah.
just things in your
I
window.
remember we were allowed battery operated fairy lights as long as
Hmm.
they weren't plug in the wall ones. The battery
Yeah.
operated ones were nice because you could keep them on for an hour or so. I had some
Hmm.
unicorn ones when I lived in
Nice.
Wolf that went right across the bookshelf, which was really
Hmm.
nice. Um, but yeah, just those little touches that, from what I remember, a lot of the kitchens have like a big pin board. So
Yeah.
even that, to have the official notices and then putting personal touches around that might be a good
Hmm.
idea.
Definitely. And something fun to do as well whilst you're all together inside.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know how, have you got any other ideas of things we can do inside?
I'll just have a think. I know we've mentioned vaguely about travelling. For a while, we can
Hmm.
get on the bus. If you've got a student bus pass, it's so easy to get the bus to Whitstable or Margate or somewhere.
Hmm.
Potentially walk one way, get the bus back the other way. It's
Hmm.
nice to get, even though it's not very far, it's nice just to have some different
Hmm.
air, slightly different sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, even though, as much as I say it's nice to see something different, sometimes there are so many beautiful walks within the city centre. Like
Hmm.
when I've had friends visit in the past, I normally walk around the city wall with them and sort of do
Hmm.
the limits. And you see so many parts of Canterbury that if you're just going grocery shopping something, you wouldn't get to see otherwise.
Hmm.
And yeah, there are some really beautiful parks and things. There's a very large park which I think is called the Beverley Meadow.
Yeah.
We go down Tyler Hill
Hmm.
um, towards town that way. There are some really nice open green
Hmm.
spaces. And yeah, it's nice to get used to the parts of town that aren't necessarily on the direct route.
Yeah,
Having
something
wandered
that's
a
just
bit
out the
lost and
way. Yeah. Like you said, especially if you decide one day you're not going to take the bus and you're just going to walk down, just discovering what's around you. But yeah, obviously you can't do that if you're inside with your housemates. But again, something you can plan for because there's loads of walking routes that you can find online for Canterbury. And the Crab and Winkle route as well for cycling. If you are feeling a bit more adventurous and you want to cycle, you can even cycle to Whitstable and back.
yeah,
And there's also a big route that you can take around Kent, but probably for those who want to have like a whole afternoon out. But if you're just wanting to go for like an hour or so, maybe halfway to Whitstable and back. There's a nice little
yeah,
church on the way down as well because it goes roughly the same direction as the park run route, I think. And
yeah.
then you loop back round. So yeah, great bit of fresh air as well and exploring
Yeah.
and stuff. Hmm.
One thing I would also say, every house needs a pack of cards, at least one pack of cards, if not two. Just when we first moved into this house and we didn't have internet for 3 weeks. So
Mm.
in that time we played a lot of card games sort of with the radio on, which sounds, it wasn't something that we would have planned to do if we hadn't had internet, but it was a really nice bonding experience to be able
Mm.
to, again, show our competitive sides a bit, but also have some fun. So we
Mm.
sort of put the books down, closed the laptops, and just said, right, we're going to have an afternoon off. We're going to have an evening off. And yeah, one afternoon our landlord came in and we were just sort of spread across the land with cards everywhere as we were playing, which was really fun.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yeah,
board games as well. I guess we were talked about them being online, but also physical ones as well. They're quite good, even if it's sort of cards or just a board, snakes and ladders, or just something sort of simple.
yeah,
Doesn't have to be really complicated, and it's something fun to pass the time with, and you get to know each other a bit better, get the
yeah.
competitive side out.
In our first year, we had a twister board in our house, which obviously I wouldn't recommend now because of, COVID and social distancing.
Mm.
But it did kind of break the ice when we first moved in to start playing
Mm.
twister, a kind of everyone falling over and not being able to do
Yeah.
much, and like being stuck in certain positions. It was a way
Mm.
of breaking. But things like
Mm.
Monopoly, get to learn
Yeah.
would be
Speaking
the
of
worst side of your family. Worst side of your family, worst side of your friends. The
a
best way
couple of
to
years
worst
ago,
side.
I don't know if you guys can see, but we picked up the University of Kent's version, And that's always quite a fun one, especially people who have left the uni. It's like, oh, let's get the Kent one out. So it's quite a
Yeah.
fun one.
They still sell that at Blackwell's. I know they used to.
I think so. I'm not sure. I did see it though. I don't know if you can, don't know if it would show up here, but as you can see, it's all sort of, as you can see, all sort of themed. You've got, oh, sideways, but you've got all your places down the side. Just realised this is back to front, so nobody can probably read it.
I'd be really interested to see
but
what's the Mayfair Square.
the most
What does it
expensive. You've got the Senate at 400 Monopoly monies, and Templeman, which is 350.
Oh, okay. I'd agree that they're both high up there.
Yeah, they're pretty high up. Yeah, and you got the different campuses as well. You got Rome, Paris, Brussels, Athens. But yeah, bit of fun, bit of silly fun.
Yeah.
And sort of physical board games as well. You don't have to rely on having an internet, like a good internet connection, if you're waiting for your net to go live. If you're living off campus, especially if you are on campus and you're having net issues, please visit the library. They will help you. They are the gurus. They know everything, and they fix so many of my tech problems. They're amazing. They're friendly, and they just help you. And yeah, it's great. I had like a really silly issue with like my phone not connecting to Eduroam, and I was on Wi-Fi, I guess, and it was a bit slower, and it just was really annoying. And then finally I went, and it was fixed in like 5 minutes. And I was thinking, oh, why didn't I go earlier? I could have got this sorted so long ago. But physical board games, I guess, you won't really need to rely on anything if you are off campus and your net isn't going live for another week because you didn't get the package or whatever in time, or I don't know, any COVID delays. And cards, like you said, cards are always a good backup.
Yeah, there are so many different games you can play with a couple of packs of cards. One of our more violent favourite ones is called Spoons, where you have to collect, like, you have 4 cards in your hand and you have to get either a straight or all 4 of a certain number, and then the first person grabs a spoon, and there's like, it's almost like musical chairs but with spoons, so there's one less spoon than there are players, and then it's kind of a fight to who gets a spoon to go into the next round every time. Again, it's quite violent board games, but
so you have cards and spoons.
Yeah, you have as soon as you get like a flush in the cards, you pick up a spoon, and then it's kind of a free for all. So then whoever doesn't end up with a spoon is out of that round. Then the next round starts, one less spoon again, and then in the end it's down to 2 players fighting over a single spoon. And I've never seen grown people more aggressive with spoons. That sound. Yeah, there are just so many different games you can play as well, or even like if you're on your own or the internet isn't working or something, just playing solitaire.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I like doing. Although I'll admit sometimes it can be frustrating when you've laid it all out and then it's not working, so you have to start again. But it's nice to have things that aren't necessarily screen based.
Yeah, definitely. Because I find that, especially in the last few months, I've been looking at my screen way too long. And I've been sitting on a dining room chair and it's just not been working for me. I had to get a proper chair. But making sure you're taking care of yourself physically, sort of where you're sitting if you are having a lot of screen times, loads of watching those lectures online or having loads of Teams meetings, and everything's through Teams now. So just make sure you yourself are sat right, you're at the right height, you're looking at the screen properly. Because the last thing you do want is a bad back, which I did have for a while, which is not ideal, especially if you are sat and needing to do loads of screen work now.
Yeah, it's also good that I know I used to be a part of the English Literature Society. There's so many societies on campus. We used to kind of do almost presentations to each other on either we were reading things that we're doing. It's nice to have an outlet where maybe start a mini book club where you all read a fun book. I know the library, so many things you can get out where there are multiple copies because they've been used on different courses. Again, I'm biased because I'm an English literature student, but there are so many novels on campus, so potentially get a copy each, have a week to read it or something, and then maybe talk about the books. It doesn't all necessarily have to be video based or screen based. I listened to a podcast called Phoebe Reads a Mystery, where there's a podcast host releases a chapter a day of mystery novels, where it's been nice to listen to some fun books as well as actually read with my eyes. It's been nice to kind of close my eyes and not quite fall asleep, but have some time where I still feel like I'm doing something I enjoy, but don't necessarily hate your eyes. So potentially that's the thing that everyone could do if everyone's got a smartphone or a laptop that could download podcasts, listen to podcasts together. There are some brilliant things that can be listened to collectively. Trying to think of a funny one that hasn't got a rude name, but things like No Such Thing as a Fish by the QI people. There's another one called My Dad Wrote a Porno, which is probably a word I can't say on this podcast, but it's a very fun podcast where this person's dad started writing erotica, and just listening to that as a group has been hilarious. Me and some of my friends at home almost do like a live stream, texting each other as we're listening to the episode second by second. That's quite a nice bonding experience, to listen to the same podcasts and see what you get from them. There's also educational ones, so I think it's Greg Jenner's got one that's all different kind of histories, where there's a comedian and a historian explaining. One I listened to the other day was explaining the Neolithic period, and yeah, it's nice to get those two different perspectives in the same podcast.
Yeah, and especially not having to use your eyes as well. I think that's really good. Mix up a little bit, otherwise you're going to feel really tired. And it should be fun spending time with your housemates inside. You shouldn't need to feel like you're getting drained or anything. So that's quite good that you're listening instead of looking at another screen for another hour.
And while we've mentioned a lot about spending time together as housemates, there's also be a considerate housemate if your housemates do have a lecture to go to. Respecting other people's space as well is also a good thing. And like I said earlier, being a considerate housemate, if you've messed up every pan in the house, just clean it. Like, especially at times like this where everyone is going to be living in a very close proximity to others, just being a good housemate for your other housemates will always make the living situation so much better. And yeah, just things like that where it's, if you want to listen to music at 3 a.m, that's fine, just put your headphones and that kind of stuff, that it'll just make everyone's lives easier in the long run. And that's especially at the moment where there is limited outside time. It's nice to get on as well as you can with everyone while still having your own schedules and still having time. So like, there's only 2 of us living in this house, but if my bedroom door's shut, that's the kind of sign that I'm working, don't distract me. And do the same with my housemate. It's nice to have, you can still have those boundaries while still getting on well with everyone.
Absolutely. And I guess it'd be a bit awkward as well if you annoyed them and then they don't want to spend time with you and then you're stuck in a house. But no, just definitely being considerate is a really big one. Music and sort of not hoovering at 2 a.m, or if you're having a call and not being on speakerphone if you know it's going to be a really long, loud call, or if you've got thin walls, just to make your life a bit easier. If you are in the tenancy for a year, for instance, then you're going to be together for a year and you don't want to get off on the wrong start in the first couple of weeks. And I guess sort of think of it in your shoes. If you were them, would you want to hear this or be woken at in the middle of the night? If it's no, then you know it's up to you. But yeah, I guess definitely being a considerate housemate and getting on with each other.
And like celebrate your housemates. Like if it's a birthday or a special occasion, they need cheering up. Have a kind of group mentality of I'm going to do what I can. It's not necessarily like at the moment. My birthday was in April and I couldn't go home to spend time with my family, which was sad. But my housemates pulled out all the stops. They organised. My birthday's April 25th, so we call that, you know, a miscongeniality. That's like the perfect date. So my housemates organised a miscongeniality pageant for me on my birthday, where everyone had a talent, including me, that they didn't warn me about before. So I had to play my clarinet on the Zoom call. But little things where, even if it's just something to take someone's mind off something for 5 minutes, anything you can do together that's nice and sort of well thought out. For my housemates' birthday, I made a poster that was about one of the things we'd been to a strange play before. So I made her a poster based on that play, and just little things that are the pick-me-ups that make living together so much more easy. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, even if it's just a little funny thing. It's the thought that counts in things like that, and just thinking about your housemates and showing that you care in little tiny ways, like even if it's just emptying the bin every once in a while. It's nice that everyone has their kind of I think it's called like their love language. This is how I show that I'm thinking about you. And it's nice when housemates learn each other's, not necessarily faults, they learn each other's little habits, and they can all get along around that.
Adapting, definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's so different if you've not lived away from home for the first time. It is going to be different. So I guess you're in for a shock if you didn't realize that. And just sort of getting to know other people, like you say, habits, and working around them, and maybe adapting yourself or adapting to other people. And again, back to being considerate is just so important. If you are doing stuff inside and you want to do it with other people, with board games or hanging out, spending time inside, if you're stuck inside and you don't get along with the people you live with, then it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So definitely, I guess, try your hardest to get along and sort of step back a little bit sometimes if you're really thinking, no, I'm right here. But maybe if you take a step back and think, oh, actually, maybe I can see why they might not appreciate my home workout at midnight.
And there's always that you can talk to as well. So like student support and wellbeing. And if you're slightly struggling from being away from home at the moment, or the advice centres there if there are any kind of more, not necessarily legal issues, but do you know what I mean? If there are more serious issues, you can always talk to advice to get some kind of mediation. But I say, having lived in multiple house shares, I've never had a big problem with any housemate that I've been in, because you learn to compromise, you learn to live with people, and you learn to live as part of a kind of mini community where one person finishes the washing up, one person puts stuff away, one person empties bins. One thing that did work really well in one of my houses was a chore chart, just so we could see who was doing what, and if it looked like someone hadn't done something for a couple of weeks, we could pick up on it. Obviously, we were all very motivated grown-ups. We were all kind of in a way that like sticker charts work. That chart worked really well as a kind of, oh, I have to clean the stairs, and then I could write it down. It made life a lot easier, because no one was squabbling, saying, no, I did it, no, I did it. It made it very clear, this person cleaned this week, but then get my big spreadsheet. So I just really enjoyed making the spreadsheet for it. It depends what kind of house you live in, and depends what kind of things might prove as an issue. Obviously, every house is going to be slightly different, but as long as you all treat each other like human beings, it should all be fine.
Definitely. And if you are stuck inside in your house, then if you are living in an untidy house, or if it's just really messy, it just isn't that pleasant either. So as a whole house, you can all get together, and if you get all the chores done, then having 5 pairs of hands is so much quicker than 1 pair of hands, and you'll have it done in no time. So definitely, I wouldn't say maybe a fun thing to do with your housemates for some people, but a thing you should just to get done. And having that routine as well is really helpful if you are stuck and you can't go out. Just making your day, maybe first thing or mid-afternoon, you do your chore, just to get it done. You know that.
Like, here's an hour, we're all going to tidy up, let's put on a Spotify playlist or something, and let's just get it done together. It makes life a whole lot easier, because then that way at least you're all living in a clean space that you're all contributed to. And anything to make your life easier is always a good idea, I say, in kind of group situations.
Absolutely. Awesome. Have you got any other items for now? I think we're doing a couple more in the next few weeks on different topics though. So today is just on sort of things to do with your housemates. But I think we've run through the main bits.
Yeah, that's most of what I can think of. But generally, my main advice is try and be civilized, be human, and treat everyone with the respect that you'd like to be treated with yourself with housemates.
Sounds very, very sensible. And so today we just spoke about games, Zoom calls, streaming services that you can all tune in, home workouts, planning advance, cooking, potlucks. So loads of ideas there for everyone. We hope you find that helpful. And I think we'll be doing something similar in soon-ish on a different topic. So tune in and keep an eye out. Thanks so much, Megan, for your time today. I'll catch you later. See ya.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.